What is going on in the Cavaliers Celtics series? Can the Celtics do anything to stop LeBron and Kyrie in Game 5? How good did the Warriors look heading into the finals? The only question left is, say it with me, you win? Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast. We're broadcasting live on Periscope as well, and as always, I'm joined by Coach Dave Dufour. Dave, it's great to be back with you. It's been way too long. It's been too long since we've been on Periscope as well. And what's going on with you?
Not a whole lot. Started running today, like training for a race, and I feel terrible. So. Oh, yeah.
God bless you. I'm going to start walking first, and maybe I'll think about running later.
Nah, you got to run before you walk, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everything hurts though. My rib cage hurts when I run now. It's like,
dude, it's the worst.
And I need like 3 Advil. But
I posted a picture on Twitter. So I think I might actually start a vlog about running or trying to run as a way to kind of hold myself accountable. And I posted a still from a video I shot today when I was running, and it just looks like I'm in some sort of torture chamber. I mean, it really it hurts. You ever watch people when they run and they always look like they've got like a pain in their side, and
kind of. I mean, what it also reminds me of is I'm in LA, so people look good no matter what they do here. But it does remind me when I'm around like young kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, and I'm watching them run, and you realize just how little they're taught how to run properly. And it's a real problem and a real epidemic in the United States where these kids don't know how to properly, with their mechanics, run. And we got to do something about that because...
Well, shoes. Shoes are the culprit, right? You know, like we put these gigantic, bulky shoes, and they've all got heels on them and things like that. So
right. Well, also, yeah, if we lived in Kenya, we'd all be running barefoot and it wouldn't be a problem.
That's right.
And no back problems, no knee problems, anything. So, all right, well, Let's get into the NBA, shall we? Because there's a lot of stuff going on. I just got back from Cleveland. Hello, Cleveland. And it was a pretty interesting experience being there for Game 3 and Game 4. The Celtics fans were really excited for me to be there because they figured that I must have had some effect on the Game 3. And it certainly lasted that way through halfway of Game 4. What are your thoughts on what happened last night?
I thought that the Celtics kind of ran out of gas. You know, they were exploiting the Cavalier defense exactly the way that you and I have been saying for months a good team could exploit it. Ball movement, off ball, like moving the ball and moving away from the ball, right? 2 key components to exploiting a defense that has what would we describe their rotations as? Undisciplined, loose,
yeah,
shitty is a good word too.
Yeah.
Bad rotations. You know, I mean, if you can catch them, they do a pretty good job for the first 2 or 3, passes. But then you catch them and you get open looks. And in the first game, the Celtics just missed every open look they had. I think it would have been a closer game if they would have just hit a few. And so we saw in Game 3, they played much better, and this is why, right? Without Isaiah Thomas, they didn't have a ball-dominant point guard out there with the ball constantly. Other guys, it causes their offense to stagnate a little bit. Whereas without him, it forces these guys to actually run the offense.
Right. Well,
I think that's what we saw.
I had a big epiphany on the way to Cleveland. I was really excited to almost maybe try and do a video on it. And then, of course, when I got to in Cleveland, I found out that Isaiah was out for the playoffs because what I wanted to do was, Isaiah was trying to turn the corner, and they were trying to blast him. And even when they did kind of get in there, and now he's got all these long bodies around him, he was making one more pass to the wing to guys who really weren't going to be able to create much. And so what I think they needed to do was run the pick and roll with some movement a little bit, pick and roll with somebody else, and then kick it out to him. He'll have a 3-on-2 on the weak side when they get him either hedging or dropping on their pick and roll coverage. And I had to imagine that Stevens would have kind of about to get there, and then as soon as he went, now Isaiah was out, so that they weren't going to be able to try that. But without question, you're right. In Game 3. They got, and remember, they weren't doing, again, they were missing a lot of their good open shots on good movement. And then finally, right, they're a professional team. and they started hitting those shots. Some of them were a little bit more difficult, especially like way down the stretch. I was like cackling in the audience watching that because I couldn't believe they were still hitting those shots. But it's what happens when you give them enough open ones and they get a rhythm going, and then that's it. They couldn't stop them down the stretch. It's a problem, and it happened all the way for the first, 28, 29 minutes of Game 4.
Yeah, I mean, again, they were hitting bank shots last night, right? Yeah. That's normally a sign that the team is going to win. When Horford and then Marcus Smart hit those 2 bank threes, I was just, I don't know. I thought it was done. I really thought they were going to win that game. I thought we were going back to Boston with a tied series. I mean, I'm DMing with people like, oh man, what are the takes going to be if Cleveland loses this game? And then of course Kyrie happened, and he was just amazing. So how was that in person? I mean, obviously watching on TV, he looks incredible. I mean, he finished the layup after he rolled his ankle.
Yeah, well, the ankle rolling was really strange. It happened right in front of us, where he went down like he got shot, and then within 20-some seconds, he was, oh, hey, what's going on? What happened? Like nothing bothered him.
I don't know if you could see, but he retied his shoes very aggressively.
Yeah.
So that was probably the trick there. I mean, it's sort of like the Mr. Miyagi thing. And so he really was aggressive in retying.
The old shoelace trick, I guess. So, but to watch that happen, I mean, I said the Celtics couldn't hang their head that low because a lot of those shots, he was like 9 for 10 in the third quarter. 6 of those were like ridiculously hard, And the only thing I had a problem with was they were sitting on his right hand, and if you can picture like him on the right side of the court, what that means is I guess they wanted to be kind of close because he wants to pull, but they're letting him have middle, and they constantly let him get to the middle of the court, and that makes an all-star look like a Hall of Famer, and it makes a bad player look like an all-star. And
especially a guy like Kyrie.
Yeah. Couldn't understand why they were doing that, because they're already small. They don't rim protect that well as it is. So he was just demolishing it, and it was one after the other of just like, oh my God, it was a show. It was a show of awesome talent. There wasn't anything about backdoor cuts or dribble handoffs and fun team. It was just a show, which also kind of masked the fact that LeBron James, even with the foul trouble, still looked like something was completely wrong. He
looked good though.
He finally did. And by the way, so his box score numbers look really good. 30-plus points and he filled it up. But I got to tell you, for well over half that game, he was completely disengaged, just like he was in Game 3. He said in the locker room or in at the podium after the game that it was the foul trouble gets you off balance. And he guessed correctly that he had never had 4 fouls in the first half before. That was the first time ever. And he didn't know what to do about that.
Well, so Richard Jefferson, in an interview following the game last night, said that he thinks LeBron has been sick. There was like a bug, I guess, going around the team. And you know what? Like, that makes a lot of sense. He looked lethargic. He couldn't quite find his rhythm. Looked like his energy was down. And until the fourth quarter last night, which, may have just been a fluke. Now, your good friend Nick Wright, he thinks that LeBron was tanking to get Kyrie to go off so that Kyrie's ready for the finals.
Yeah, no.
Which is ridiculous.
That seems silly. You can't play with you can't do that. No. That's no. You know what? He looks. I saw him in the locker room, and he seemed fine. You know what I mean? Like, and
Sure.
I was studying him. I hope it's not weird, but I was like staring at him, really like studying to see like what's going on, how is he moving, whatever. But he definitely, while he was on the court, like if you told me he had the flu or whatever, like I would have believed you. That's sort of what it looked like. And if you have the flu, one of the best ways to treat it is by eating some fantastic home-cooked meals. And that's what Blue Apron can do for you. Had someone made LeBron a 3 cheese and baby broccoli stromboli with tomato and oregano dipping sauce, he might have been able to play better earlier in Game 4. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. And for under $10 per person, you get all the food, perfectly measured out, and easy to follow directions that turn into some of the best meals your kitchen will produce. If you visit blueapron.com/CoachNick, you will get 3 free meals, including free shipping. And I'm sure you'll keep coming back for more, like beef teriyaki stir fry with sugar snap peas and lime rice. That one was like Avery Bradley's game winner from Game 3, good to the last bite. So visit our friends over at blueapron.com/Coach Nick and put yourself on the path towards fresh, high-quality eating in the comfort of your own home. I mean, like in Game 3, like he deferred so often down that stretch. He had like Avery Bradley on him for 2 or 3 possessions and didn't even look at the basket. And then in Game 4 as well, they had a couple times where like he got the ball on top and just didn't even look. He just was holding it like, please, someone else get this ball from me. Although one of them, as I was saying that, ended up being that beautiful lob to Kyrie, who caught it in the air and then hit a floater as a floater alley-oop. Never seen that in my life, I don't think. And you know, and those are the kind of shots that it took. Now, here the key here for the Celtics was when they had a 10-point lead and LeBron went out with the 4th foul and they had a 7-minute stretch. They couldn't. The Cavaliers cut it to 5, and then they ultimately got it back to 10 or maybe 11 or 12 at the halftime. But
it was 10.
What was it?
10 at the half.
It was 10 at the half. That was the moment where you needed to get it to like 15, 16, 17. Then you hang on. And I said, and I think Brad Stevens said the same thing. As soon as that happened, they you know, a 10-point lead was nothing for the Cavaliers at home, and that's what happened.
Yeah, look, you've got to capitalize. The Cavs are too good, and they've got 3 guys that could just go off. I mean, Kevin Love has been fantastic this whole playoffs. On both ends of the court, he's been fantastic. Kyrie has been bad, but you know he's not going to stay bad.
Right.
So, you know, like you've got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities when they show up. And the Celtics just didn't do it. And now it's 3-1. I mean, the series is over. I would guess Cleveland closes it out in Boston in the next game. I would assume. How do you feel about it?
Well, you know, and I did a lot of. I'm going to get a video out pretty soon of my trip to Cleveland. And I did a lot of interviews. Funny before the game, I was interviewing all the fans, and everyone was convinced that LeBron's going to have 50 points and they're going to destroy him. Isn't that whatever? And you should have seen them. So again, here we are, the same kind of thing. Oh, they're going to destroy him. It's going to be over. If I were Brad Stevens, and ask your questions, and let's do some questions after this, and then we'll do the segment on the Warriors. But and then Dave, if you see some questions, grab them. I will. All I can tell you is, if I were Brad Stevens, I'm going through the Game 4 tape specifically. I would feel pretty good, and I'd say, look at this, guys. We had a lot of good shots, and the only thing that happened was they went really stagnant down the stretch, and that people want to credit the Cavaliers defense, and I guess there was a sense of extra pressure they put on the ball, or they tried, but like they literally cemented themselves to the floor. They would not cut. They would not move. And I really have a hard time understanding how the defense just forced those guys to stand still. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. So.
Oh, and then Kelly Olynyk doesn't play until 2 minutes left and the game's over.
And then quarter. That's not smart, right?
No. It's baffling, and I know he was having a little bit of trouble defensively at some point, but it doesn't matter. I literally, like, did they forget that he wasn't in? Something was way off, because he was helping them again, and they need to have him on the floor. It's insane. So
well, he's the X factor.
Kelly only they had the X factor again. You can see it, right? It's certainly not out of the realm, and all those people owe me an apology on Twitter that were screaming at me for 3 days before the conference finals.
Okay, so we've gotten this question already a few times, so a few people have asked it in the Periscope. Did you see Tyrone Lue's his comments on the Celtics offense being harder to deal with than Golden State?
When did he say that?
I guess it was today or yesterday during the postgame. Anyway, that is completely ridiculous.
I mean, that's like we won't get into politics, but that's a very political answer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nonsense. And by the way, the funny thing is like, you're trying to cover him and hear what he says. He talks so quietly. He's like the quiet talker in like Seinfeld. He might have said something completely opposite, but like it's all you can hear was like, because you can't hear the dude. And I don't know how he does it in the games because it's loud in there. But nonetheless,
well, LeBron's doing all the coaching, so.
Yeah, I know. It's another. I'm waiting for the tell-all book by somebody. Well, here's a question I just grabbed. What is the worst-case scenario for the future of the NBA coming out of the finals? Is Golden State too good? Oh, can we save that, I guess, and segue into our Golden State?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's worst-case scenario. I think the NBA wants the finals to go 7 games, but But I think that they want every playoff series to go 7 games.
Right.
I don't think that's any kind of surprise, right? Like they make more money that way. TNT, ABC, like they all want 7-game series. Game 7s are, huge for ratings, especially in the finals, and especially this is now the rubber match of the finals. And
but I also think that the idea behind that question might be like what the state of the NBA. Like, is the Golden State Warriors, are they so good now that there's nothing you can do for the next several years? I mean, you can't win. You're not going to win 4 titles in a row. I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe you can these days, but it just seems like something's going to happen where it will balance out. But it's also the failings of all these other GMs. Patrick McCaw is I think my new favorite player now, and he is well on his way, even like right now, to becoming better than Iggy. Okay, because he can defend. He's not strong enough like Iggy is yet, but he will. He's still young. He can shoot better than Iggy already, in my mind. It's mechanically he can, and he's so earnest in his approach. And that guy was drafted like 37th. Everybody, or maybe later, I can't remember now. I think 37th. Yeah. That's the number I have in my head. These are the guys that they're missing. That the other GMs are missing. Now, again, are they developing this, and is it a whole culture thing that's really helping him, or he would not have done that somewhere else? Like, yeah, maybe. But that's also on the GMs and the presidents and the owners to have that, and they don't. There's enough good coaching around to develop that if they could find them. So, that's more of a failing everybody else.
With McCaw, he's looked good since day one. Like we knew coming in he was going to be able to defend, and he was actually a point guard in college, so we knew he had some on the ball skill, and he was a decent enough shooter. They just whiffed on him, and just like they whiffed on Draymond Green, just like 6 other teams whiffed on Steph Curry. You can forgive the whiffing in the lottery because every team does it, but at the same time, it's true. Like, I mean, Golden State took him. So I just don't think it's bad for the league. I mean, if you look at the playoff ratings, they're up like 15%. So, I mean, these playoffs, like, people are engaged. They're watching. Now, I think that we all get caught up in sort of the world of basketball Twitter. And I think people have a little bit too much time on their hands, and they like to think about things like this, like, competitive balance is way off, which sure it is, but you and I have had this conversation. I don't know if we've done it on the podcast before, but when was the last time you went into a season and excluding 2004 with Detroit, okay, the one anomaly, but when was the last time, if I could have told you the eventual champion, that it would have been a complete shock? Can you remember? I mean, Golden State 2 years ago, probably, right? They came out of nowhere and went 60, but they had the makings of a contender. Yeah. So I think that this is kind of more the norm than not. This is just the extreme version of it. Okay. I mean, just wait until Chris Bosh signs with the Warriors on a minimum deal this summer, and waits for those hot takes to come.
Oh wow! You think that he's going to risk it all to come back and play?
I think he wants to play. I mean, I think if he's healthy, that he's going to play. If he gets I hope that he's healthy, right? Like, I hope he's not, like, jumping the gun and just forcing it back. But the Warriors, I don't think many teams are going to take a risk unless he's actually good to go.
I know, but, like, how do you prove that? That was the whole thing, but I
have no idea. But I think they figure it out, and I think if he comes back, I think the Warriors are – I think they're a likely destination on, like, a 1-year deal.
All right. Yeah, I mean, listen,
I think it would be crazy.
Yeah, because, like, he was starting to shoot threes at the end, and, if you get even, his defense on the perimeter, they would break every defensive record you'd probably find.
And offensive record.
Right.
It would just be, woo. They would have a shot if they wanted, and they stayed healthy. They could go 82-0. I mean, their starting lineup, it would be the new death lineup.
Right, that's true.
Steph, Clay,
interesting.
Durant, Draymond, and Chris Bosh. Oh man.
Right. Well, you're saying Draymond won't start? Wait.
No, Draymond at the 4.
Oh, okay. Wait, Durant, Draymond, Chris. Oh, so Chris Bosh at the 5. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. And if you want to see Chris Bosh possibly come back to the NBA and play, you're going to need tickets to the game. So beat the Andersons to the best seats in the house by using SeatGeek, the best app for finding tickets to sporting events and concerts. It searches multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. Plus, you can see the vantage point from every seat. And they are guaranteed, so you know your seats are legit. So whether you want to watch LeBron and Kyrie, Steph or Durant, or Rose and Noah, use SeatGeek to find your tickets. Plus, you'll get $20 off your first purchase if you use my code CoachNick. That's right, I've got some serious clout over there and managed to get you a nice discount. So ignore all the other codes you hear and type in Coach Nick in the setting under promo code and get yourself in on all the live action that SeatGeek has to offer. From sporting events to concerts, comedy clubs, and the theater. SeatGeek! Are there any other questions we have real quick before we go on to the Western Conference? No?
Take on. So we already talked about Ty Lue. Yeah. No, I guess let's go on to the Warriors.
Okay. Well, all right. Did you happen to watch Game 4, by the way?
I did.
So, like, I caught that at the bar, and in Cleveland, late night. I don't know how East Coast teams or Eastern people do that. It's just so late.
It's brutal, man.
Yeah, and brutal. So, but I gotta tell you, it was like watching the Globetrotters a little bit. It was that ball was moving so fast, and I had people on Twitter trying to say, oh, they would look like they weren't playing like as hard as they could, and they couldn't quite get a huge separation early enough. But I don't know, man. That ball was whipping around the court, almost like in anticipation, like, hey, Cavs, this is what we're waiting. This is what's waiting for you. It was almost disarming.
Yeah, So I've got an opinion on this, and this is going to sound so cheesy, but I think that first of all, it may have been Manu Ginobili's last game.
Yeah. Well, you saw him hug Pop on the third quarter when he came out, right?
Right. And the Warriors were very conscious of that. And, there's a lot of reverence around the league for Manu Ginobili, but, specifically, I think the Warriors have a lot of reverence for him. Steve Kerr played with him. Mike Brown coached him. So I suspect, like you did say, the ball was moving around a lot. They were scoring in bunches and things like that, but it seemed like every time they had a chance to kind of go up like 30, they took their foot off the gas. And I'm not saying that they were trying to keep it close, but I think they were trying to make it so that it was a little bit more respectable. Now, I have no inside information. It's just how it looked. Because I definitely saw them throw a few extra passes. You saw Steph kind of, break out the Globetrotter stuff every now and then, which I've got to take about. But yeah, so I don't know if it was on purpose, but it certainly felt like it was a thing. And hopefully people don't listen to that and think it's a ridiculous take. This is just how it felt to me when I was watching.
I mean, talk about the ultimate respect, I suppose, if that would be that. Like, here's a guy, we don't want to, like, embarrass him, I suppose, and it ended so early. And as far as I can tell, he didn't go back in after that third quarter hug up with Pop, right?
He did not, no.
Right, and so that was...
Wait, third quarter?
I remember it being the third quarter, but then again, it was like midnight, so I don't know what was happening at that point.
It was fourth quarter. Yeah, he came out, and, the crowd was chanting for him. I mean, it was awesome. And honestly, if you were going to update the video that you just made, cheap plug, if you were going to update it, it would be a game that I think you would want to include. Like, I mean, some of his stuff, I mean, he nutmegged a guy, on the sideline. I mean, it was a kind of a classic Manu game. And then the crowd really, it was awesome. I'm not going to say I got emotional about it because that's just not who I am. But I did kind of reminisce a little bit about Manu and how much I'm going to miss him. I mean, it's one of my favorite players.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I have plenty of ideas in my head how to do the definitive farewell Manu video, which might cause people to start chopping some onions.
It's got to have the Gold Medal game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, listen, there's some good footage out there. So, and here we are with the prospect of, and I don't know if we quite sealed in our practice with the Eastern Conference Finals Game 5. It'll be over. Obviously the Cavaliers showed they have no problem winning in the Garden. But by the way, it would have been really interesting to see a 2-2 Game 5 in the Garden. But, either way, the team's going to, close it out. Let's just say they, Game 6, whatever, and they'll have plenty of rest and plenty of preparation. I don't know. I think the only concern the Warriors have is how physical it will be. And I think we're going to have a Detroit Pistons versus Chicago Bulls, Bad Boys versus Michael's Bulls version. Obviously, this is the night. This would be like nowhere close to being what the Bad Boys were, but they rough it up more than anybody else in the league. It feels like, and that's going to be a concern, I imagine, for the Warriors. The biggest
problem with that, right? They can manhandle Steph Curry off the ball like they did last year. What are they going to do? What are they going to do when the Warriors just say, you know what, we're going to just hand the ball to KD and let him cook a little bit? They've got no answer for KD defensively. There's no one on the Cavs that can guard him. LeBron can't guard him. At least I don't think he can. He would surprise me if he could. And I just don't see a path to the Cavs winning a game, possibly a game. Okay, so I'm now saying they lose in 4 or 5 because there's always that one unpredictable game. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think there's any path to a Cavs championship outside of an injury to a key Golden State player.
Well, yeah, I mean, but what about Kyrie having a third quarter like he did? Although, again, this is against the Warriors, it's hard to imagine anybody's going to be able to do that against them because they're so good defensively. I mean, they're so much better than anybody else defensively. That's what's so scary about it, and that's why it was really touching to hear Pop talk about it that way. And in that press conference, he used the beautiful game. Like, that's their phrase, and he gave it to the Warriors. And, in fact, the Warriors have probably taken it and gone even another level beyond what they did in 2014. So, yeah, I mean, that would have to happen. You'd have to have the Kyrie go crazy, and then you're going to have a 25-point game, and then LeBron go crazy as well. So, yeah, it seems like a real weird thing, but they're going to win a game. They're going to win the 2 games, I think.
I don't think so.
Really?
I just don't see it. I mean, in my heart, I think the Warriors sweep.
Okay.
That's like my gut feeling. Now, in my brain, it's like, well, but it's still LeBron, so maybe they win a game. But I really feel like the Warriors are going to sweep the playoffs, and this is going to spur that conversation that we just talked about, the competitive balance issue. People are going to say, well, this is the first time any team's ever gone 16-0. Well, someone's bound to go 16-0 at some point. Yeah. Some team's going to get hot enough or be good enough. I just don't remember when the Lakers were winning when they did their three-peat. I can't remember people talking about parity in the league. I can't remember people complaining that Shaq and Kobe were on the same team. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different because they were both, I guess they'd been there for a while. Kobe had been drafted. Shaq was a free agent, 96? Mm-hmm. So they had been there for a while before they won the titles. I think that makes a difference. If KD would have signed there 4 years ago as a restricted free agent or whatever he was, then would we be having the same conversation if the Warriors were just as good? I don't think so. I think it's just because he signed there last summer. So, right. Yeah, again, back to that, I just don't have a problem with it. I'm cool with having a really great team that plays amazing basketball, and I think that it's great. Like, the reason the Cavs winning the title last year was so awesome was because they beat such a good team. Like, that's a good thing.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, and that also brings us to the LeBron versus Michael Jordan question, which comes up now a lot. And part of that question then becomes, what if LeBron does lead them past this team? He still doesn't have enough titles to beat Michael, but it does seem like if he did back-to-back being the Warriors, the 73-win team, and then this team, I think that might jump over Michael. What do you think?
I don't think he needs another title to jump over Michael. I think it's debatable. He may actually be ahead of Michael right now. I mean, this is like, hopefully this isn't a hot take anymore, but LeBron James has had a pretty amazing career. He's really, to me, he's in that class of a guy who has changed the way the game is played, like Magic Johnson did, like Michael did, like Larry Bird. And I think that, and I've said this for a while, if someone was to tell me that LeBron James is the best player ever, I can't argue against it.
Right.
Now, I can argue for Jordan, but I can't go and argue against LeBron. Like, he's too good. And we're at the point. First of all, I think the whole conversation is kind of crazy, and it comes up all the time. And if I were LeBron, I'd be tired of it. But at the same time, I mean, it's a real thing. Like, he might be the best player ever.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
I'm okay with it.
Right. It's you're splitting hairs here, and the thing with Michael versus LeBron is, I mean, certainly if you want to argue LeBron's favor, and I was in Cleveland, I got to go on the radio and talk about this all morning or during a segment was, you know, LeBron has certain intangibles that Michael just couldn't deal with. He was 6'9", he's 6'9", 260, and is as fast as anybody in the league. So it's just simply Michael doesn't have that, right? But you know, a couple different things that I would have an issues with are, you know, I think that LeBron has disappeared in the finals in a number of these stretches, whereas Michael never really ever did that. And so that
and now
is,
Michael had he had one or two clunkers in the finals. Now, but he still would put up like 20 points. Now, I mean clunkers as far as inefficient.
Yeah, but like he never
one of the most efficient guys ever.
Right, but he never like just disappeared or got the yips and just sort of like,
right.
You know, because I forgot, you know, he had it in the Avery Bradley matchup when he had that and he didn't even look at the basket. Like, you know, all of a sudden they're like JJ Barea, you know, or like even like Boris Diaw, remember, like who just gave him all that room.
Hey, but Boris Diaw defended him really, really well, and underrated part of Boris Diaw's game in 2014, maybe not 2017 Boris, but Boris was actually really smart when he guarded LeBron. He used his body, right? He was very stout.
There it is.
You're playing the drinking game at home. And so he was and his feet were quick. So yeah. I mean that's the key to LeBron, right? Like this is why Draymond can guard him.
Well, yeah, but remember he dropped back and like said, please just shoot any jump shot you like, and it got into LeBron's head, and he got really tentative and didn't know what to do because no one ever dared him to do that before. And
you can't do that now because LeBron, sorted out his threes.
I guess, but I'd still do it. I don't care. If he wants to hit 10 threes and we lose, great. I would give him a big hug afterwards.
If I were the Celtics, going to Game 5, if I were the Celtics, I would be putting LeBron on the line as much early as possible.
Oh, hack a LeBron? Wow.
Kind of, right? Because basically what I want him to do is I want to put a little bit of doubt in his head. Like, everyone at this point has read the piece about his free throws, and obviously his numbers are terrible. So it looks like it's actually throwing him out of rhythm. And so, he's avoiding clutch free throws. That's a thing. That's been happening all season.
Yeah.
So I would consider not only LeBron, but also Tristan Thompson. I would be trying to put those guys on the line.
Yeah. I mean, I know Thompson had a great free throw shooting night in Game 3, which is what, kept them in there. But again, you got to try some of those things. Although Thompson didn't have as much of an impact in Game 4 either way. It didn't feel like they got killed in the boards. And what really was killing the Cavaliers, they had turned the ball over a bit in the Game 4 as well, and that was another thing. So a lot of weird anomalies. And so, I would definitely, I would either, I guess you could take turns either giving LeBron a jump shot and just make him prove it a little bit, and then, putting him on the line, and following him hard, take those fouls, because he seems to have, he doesn't like getting fouled, right? He doesn't like hard fouls. He certainly was carrying on a bit when he didn't get the call on a couple of those drives that he missed. He missed a dunk in the wide open court. That was, and they asked him afterwards where he said, he's like, yeah, I've missed a few of those over the years. He goes, but, I think if you look at the numbers, I probably made a few more than I've missed. And that was funny, but like, that was when you knew like something was up. It was weird. Like, that's why you think like, was he sick or something? Because, it was a beautiful play, wide open, right at the rim, and he just hit the back rim and it went flying by. So, yeah, you're right. Like we said earlier, the Celtics have some cause to be like, to feel pretty good about them, or not feel pretty good, but feel better about themselves than anyone else who's down 3-1.
Yeah, and there's a conversation going on in the Periscope chat here.
Oh, yeah?
about whether or not Draymond actually guarded LeBron at all. Here, the thing is, the way that the Warriors play defense is that they switch so much that everyone gets possessions against everyone else. I mean, I would love to do a breakdown on, how they compare to other teams as far as like percentage of the time guarding one guy. I would bet the percentages are pretty low for everyone. I mean, look at like Klay Thompson was guarding Rudy Gobert on multiple possessions in that series. And so I think that, it's easy to forget the Draymond guarding LeBron possessions. But yeah, I mean, someone pointed this out. Draymond last year was weak side help quite a bit. Well, this year, that's Kevin Durant's job. Mm-hmm. So I would expect to see some more of that Draymond on LeBron, especially if LeBron gets going early.
Right. I hear you. Yeah, so that's going to be the thing, because obviously the Cavaliers, what they are focusing on is forcing the switch and then isolating that. And that's going to be the interesting thing is how they can do that. Now, they're probably going to still try and do the whole get Steph Curry onto LeBron and do that. And so that's what they're going to have to come up with. That's the one real issue that I think they're going to end up having is how they're going to manage, covering that. And I think that you can get really creative where if it's Steph's man running up to set the ball screen, they can switch that while the guy's up there. So next thing you know, it's not Steph who's switching, it's Iggy or Draymond or anybody else. So that should be interesting to see if they can develop that. Because we've seen that. I've seen that a little bit. A couple different teams have done it. I don't know if I've really seen the Warriors, but if there's a team that could do it, it would be them.
But not to put the cart before the horse, because we have seen a 3-1 lead blown before. And is there any chance that the Celtics could come back and win this series? Do you see any path to victory?
I mean, well, yeah. If they could hit their open shots, then they have a shot. Because they're having trouble stopping the Cavaliers, and that's going to be a thing they're never going to solve this year. But but we also have seen the Cavaliers get the yips as well and need the titanic efforts to actually get the ball in, like Kyrie. So, but if the Celtics all of a sudden develop whatever rhythm, because it's not going to be the Cavaliers taking them out of it, especially at the beginning. It's weird. Then they can win at least another game, and then we're into Game 6. Again, that's going to be back in Cleveland with the 2-2-1-1-1. But again, it's got to be like a 15% chance, I'd say, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it depends. I think the Celtics blowing that game last night pretty much shot them in the foot for this series. I don't really think they can come back from 3-1. But there is a path. I mean, Kyrie has now had one good game in the playoffs. And without it, they lose last night. So, I mean, are we going to is this the Kyrie we're going to get for the rest of the playoffs, or at least the rest of the series? If not, well, we better get LeBron from the first 2 games or the first 10 games of the playoffs. So right. I don't know. But anyway, so the Celtics have really surprised. They really surprised me in the last 2 games. They look much closer without Isaiah Thomas than they did with him against the Cavs. Now this may be an anomaly. I don't know. I think their offense moves much better without him. So, the rich might get richer with the number 1 pick and all the money they've got for free agency. I don't know, man. It's going to be the Celtics have an interesting summer coming up, and I think that the Cavs probably wrap this up in Game 5.
All right. Well, let's get some questions before we wrap up here. And here's a good one from Belly Duragi. Asks, why is Clay struggling again? Do you have any opinions on that?
No. So the one good thing about Clay is that even when he's struggling on offense, he's still bringing it on defense. So he's still defending well and all that stuff. So he's not a negative. And that he's going to regress to the mean. So I would expect him to have a huge, game at some point in the finals. I bet he wins a finals game, sort of like Game 6 against OKC last year. Mm-hmm. So I would expect that. But he does sort of look out of rhythm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of natural when you put KD. He's the one guy. I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought that maybe he was the guy who's going to feast, but he's just never really been able to get on track for a sustained amount of time during the season. And if there was going to be a roster shakeup at all of Golden State, I would imagine Clay would be the guy who ends up, moving on. I've won 2 or 3 championships, whatever it is. I want to try my hand at doing something else, which would be too bad because it would be different, but they would still be good. Clay, it's just one of those things where he's just not, the rhythm is not there. He's, when he's getting a catch and shoot, he still looks great. He's still knocking those down. It's just less of he just gets less attention than he would normally get when Durant was not there. So, I have another question. JaVale will be a liability versus Cleveland, which is not even a question from Calvin. I
disagree.
JaVale has been very impressive all playoffs long to me.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think we're going to get a JaVale game in the finals, just like a Clay game. I think we're going to get a game where JaVale goes for 16, maybe 3 or 4 blocks, and really is a key contributor. He is a guy, and it's funny, this is something that the Cavs sort of have struggled with, is the vertical spacer. And JaVale is that guy. Right, like Tristan Thompson, he struggles a little bit with that. Their weak side help is always slow, and so if you can toss up a lob to JaVale McGee, that's money in the bank. I mean, he could go 8 for 8 in a game very, very easily.
Right. Yeah. Now Ryan asked a question about Chris Bosh going to the Warriors, and Ryan, fire this up when we're done and go back and watch. We already talked about that a little bit for a few minutes. So
download the podcast.
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry, don't do that. Don't go to Periscope. Go to the podcast tomorrow when we drop this. And let's see. Let's get one more question to seal in our practice. So what do we have here from somebody? Somebody throw out a question here for us as we wrap up our podcast recording. Everyone has something to say, but no one has a question to ask. Yeah,
the Periscope chat has devolved into people arguing with themselves.
Yes. Well, all right. We got a little Twitter spillage. Let's see here, and we kind of talked about that just now, but about JaVale being a rim protector, critical for Golden State Warriors in the finals. Bosh to the Wizards. I don't know. I'd be surprised if any team would be willing to take Bosh with that kind of risk. Who's the X Factor player for the Cavs in the finals? Asked somebody weird named Eric. Let's see here. I don't know. What's the X Factor for the Cavs? Who is it going to be?
I think it's just their bench. Can they hold up when LeBron's off the court? Because they haven't. And yeah. LeBron, playing 45 minutes a game, it looks like it's sort of catching up with him, unless he was just sick. He's going to have a hard time doing that against the Warriors for 4 games.
Yeah. And he looked like he was dragging for these 4 games a little bit for different time to time, and and all that rest, whatever. He doesn't look like he's a spring chicken right now. And by the way, on the other side of the ball, then the X Factor. I don't know. I'm just gonna say like Sean Livingston. Let's just say he'll be that X Factor guy who can go for like 12 points and 4 assists and just really like control the second unit and really make it a problem for the Cavaliers too.
Yeah.
So. Well,
I agree.
I think we got a lot of stuff done. I think we solved a lot of problems today, Dave, right?
Yeah, I think we did. I don't know. We kind of were all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since we got to talk, so it makes sense.
Yeah, even though we were all over the place. And by the way, and yes, Curry has been a pretty good defender this playoffs. I wanted to do a video, but I don't think I can stand I can't take the heat.
You need to do a Kevin Love defense video because people don't realize that Kevin Love has turned into a good defender.
Yeah, not necessarily in the pick and roll, but I think everywhere else he's been really good helping and recovering. Yeah, you're right. I've seen some great examples of that in this playoff. So, all right, maybe we'll do a Kevin Love and Curry defensive video together and just sort of package it so I can hide behind part of it. But anyway, well, thank you, Dave, for joining us today. Great stuff. Can't wait to get this finals on and figure out what's going on with the Eastern Conference Finals too. But we're going to break all that stuff down. We'll be here for more all week and all Twitter and all that stuff. So join us then. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.